Welcome back to Total War Europe Barbarum Endgame Let's Play. In Part 51, we pick up where we left off. After Seleucidian attacked Macedonia and Constantinople fell, the Roman Senate dispatched its legions. The first legion that was sent, led by Lucius Cornelius Arvina, successfully landed and fought in the city of Sai. In the early stages of the Seleucid War, Rome dispatched 3 legions to the east. They would land in Turkey and drive a wedge into the land. Another legion approached from the south, through Egypt, led by the legendary Africanicus himself. Additionally, the Senate provided an army of deadly assassins, who also landed on the coast. The army controlled by the Persian king, Antiochus III, was huge. It quickly became clear that 3 legions were not enough to conquer the entire Persian Empire. Therefore, Rome decided to send additional legions to the east. More than 10 legions were dispatched to win the Seleucid War and push back the Persians. The Roman troops had already achieved some significant victories in this phase of the war. However, the Persian armies had not fully surrendered, and the fighting continued. The next phase of the war would be crucial in securing the victory for Rome. The biggest challenge for Rome in the Seleucid War was adapting to the new conditions and circumstances in the east. The Roman troops had fought in the west, where they engaged in open battles against other armies. In the east, however, they fought against hoplites. In the final phase, 3 more legions landed further east, in front of the walls of Damascus and Jerusalem. After numerous battles, a border was drawn, and local generals and troops were trained to hold the border. But would that be enough? The Roman generals were war-weary, and after numerous triumphs with their legions, they longed to return to Rome. However, it turned out differently. The Marius reform had a profound impact on the Roman army. By creating a professional standing army and recruiting soldiers from all social classes, Marius made the old units and militia armies useless. Previously, soldiers had to provide their own weapons and equipment and also had the right to decide when and where they wanted to fight in battle. With the Marius reform, these soldiers were replaced by professional mercenaries who were paid and equipped by the state. This change had an impact on the old units, which were composed of landowners. These units had previously had a high reputation in the Roman army and were well equipped due to their ownership of land. However, after the Marius reform, these units no longer had any special advantages and were gradually abolished. In conclusion, the Seleucid War was a significant event in Roman history, with numerous legions being dispatched to the east to secure victory against the Persians. The war brought about changes in the Roman army, particularly with the Marius reform, which created a professional standing army and abolished the old units. It also highlighted the challenges that Rome faced fighting in unfamiliar terrain and against new enemies. The Persian armies had not yet fully surrendered, and the fighting continued. The next phase of the war would be crucial to secure victory for Rome. The biggest challenge for Rome in the Seleucid War was adapting to the new conditions and circumstances in the east. The troops of Rome had fought in the west, where they faced other armies in open battles. In the east, however, they fought against hoplites. In the final phase, 3 more legions landed further east, outside the walls of Damascus and Jerusalem. After numerous battles, a border was drawn. Local generals and troops were trained to hold the border area. But will it be enough? The Roman generals are weary of war and, after numerous triumphs with their legions, they returned to Rome. The war with the Seleucid Empire was one of the toughest and most important conflicts Rome ever fought in. The Persians were a formidable opponent, with a large and well-trained army that had conquered many lands and peoples over the centuries. Rome, on the other hand, was a young empire, but it had already proven itself to be a powerful force in the Mediterranean world. At the beginning of the war, Rome sent 3 legions to the east to secure a foothold on the coast of Turkey. The legions were commanded by experienced generals who had fought in many battles and knew how to lead their troops to victory. The First Legion, under the leadership of Lucius Cornelius Arvina, successfully landed near the city of Sai. However, as the war progressed, Rome realized that 3 legions would not be enough to conquer the entire Seleucid Empire. The Persian army was simply too large and too well-trained to be defeated with just a few legions. Rome needed to send more troops to the east if it hoped to win the war. In response, Rome sent more than 10 legions to the east, including one led by the legendary Africanicus. These legions were sent to reinforce the troops already on the ground and to launch new offensives against the Seleucid Empire. Rome also provided a deadly army of assassins who landed on the coast and were tasked with taking out key Seleucid leaders. The fighting in the east was fierce and brutal, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Seleucids were determined to hold onto their lands and were willing to fight to the death to protect their empire. Rome, on the other hand, was equally determined to expand its influence in the east and to secure its borders against potential threats. After many battles, Rome and the Seleucids finally drew a border between their lands. Local generals and troops were trained to hold the border and to prevent any further incursions into Roman territory. However, there was always the possibility that the Seleucids would launch a new offensive, and Rome needed to be prepared to defend its borders at all times. In the end, the Seleucid War was a costly but ultimately successful campaign for Rome. The war solidified Rome's position as a dominant power in the Mediterranean world and paved the way for future expansion into the east. However, the war also showed that Rome could not conquer every empire it came up against, and that sometimes a drawn-out conflict was the only way to secure a lasting peace. But it happened differently. The Marius reform had a profound impact on the Roman army. By creating a professional standing army and recruiting soldiers from all layers of society, Marius made the old units and militia armies unusable. Before the reform, soldiers had to provide their own weapons and equipment and also had the right to decide when and where they wanted to fight in battle. With the Marius reform, these soldiers were replaced by professional mercenaries who were paid and equipped by the state. This change had an impact on the old units composed of landowners who had previously held a high status in the Roman army and were well equipped due to their possession of land. If you don't want to miss any more stories, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. However, after the Marius reform, these units no longer had any special advantages and were gradually abolished. In the city of Rome, the news of the Marius reform spread quickly. The people were surprised and shocked that the old way of forming armies was coming to an end. The wealthy landowners who had long held positions of power in the military were outraged. They had enjoyed special privileges for so long that they couldn't believe they were going to lose them. One such landowner was Gaius, a proud and wealthy Roman citizen. He had always considered himself a great warrior and had fought in several battles, leading his own unit of soldiers. But now, with the Marius reform, his status and power were threatened. Gaius knew that he had to do something to protect his position and status. He began to gather support from other landowners who shared his view that the Marius reform was a threat to their power. They formed a secret society and began to plan how they could resist the changes that Marius was implementing. Meanwhile, Marius was continuing with his reforms. He was recruiting soldiers from all layers of society and training them in the latest techniques of warfare. His new professional army was becoming a force to be reckoned with, and the old units were gradually being phased out. One day, Gaius and his fellow landowners decided to take action. They formed a group of soldiers from their own units and marched towards Rome. Their intention was to seize power and overthrow Marius, who they saw as a threat to their status and way of life. The news of the rebellion quickly spread, and Marius knew that he had to act fast. He ordered his newly trained army to mobilize and prepare for battle. He knew that the rebels would not give up without a fight. The two armies met in a fierce battle outside the walls of Rome. The rebel army was well equipped and well trained, but they were no match for the professional soldiers of Marius. In the end, the rebels were defeated, and Gaius was captured. Marius knew that he could not afford to show mercy to the rebels. He ordered Gaius to be executed, and the other rebel leaders to be exiled or imprisoned. He knew that he had to stamp out any opposition to his reforms if they were to succeed. In the end, the Marius reform was a success. The old units and militia armies were phased out, and a professional standing army was established. Soldiers were recruited from all layers of society, and they were trained in the latest techniques of warfare. The reforms had a profound impact on the Roman army, and they paved the way for future military conquests. Marius had transformed the Roman army into a professional fighting force that was feared and respected throughout the world. And for Gaius and his fellow landowners, the Marius reform marked the end of an era. They had lost their special privileges and their power, and they could only watch as Rome moved forward into a new age of military power and conquest. In the future, the Senate of Rome will order all previous legions back to Rome to discuss the Marius reform. After long talks, the Senate will decide to go ahead with the Seleucidian War. The Second Seleucidian War will begin shortly, and the Senate will send the old legions back to the east to hold the Persian lands and secure a new front area. The Senate had issued an order for all previous legions to return to Rome to discuss the Marius reform. This had created quite a stir among the ranks of the military. The Marius reform had been a topic of discussion for some time now, but many were unsure about what it would entail. As the legions began to arrive back in Rome, the Senate was in a state of frenzy. They had to make a decision about whether to go ahead with the Seleucidian War or to focus on the Marius reform. The senators were divided on the matter, but after long talks, they finally came to a decision. The Senate decided to go ahead with the Seleucidian War. They believed that this war was necessary to secure the Roman Empire's borders in the east and to create a new front area. The legions were ordered to return to the east to hold the Persian lands and to secure the newly acquired territory. However, there was a problem. The Senate realized that there was a lack of Roman generals to lead the legions. They needed experienced generals who could lead the legions to victory. They decided to clear the lack of Roman generals and bring the generals from the west, Spain, back to Rome. The decision was not an easy one to make. The generals from Spain had been away from Rome for a long time, and they were not familiar with the new reforms that had taken place. However, the Senate believed that they were the best choice for the job. To address the lack of Roman generals, the Senate will bring the generals from the west, Spain, back to Rome. The Spanish generals will be known for their leadership skills, and the Senate will believe that they will be the best choice to lead the legions to victory. As the Second Seleucidian War begins, the Roman legions will face many challenges. The Seleucidian army will be well prepared, and the Roman legions will have a tough time trying to break through their lines. However, the experience of the Spanish generals will pay off, and they will be able to turn the tide of the battle. As the war continues, the Roman legions will begin to make progress. They will be able to push back the Seleucidian army and capture key territories. The war will be tough, but the Roman Empire will emerge victorious once again. With the war won, the Senate will look towards the future. They will believe that the Roman Empire needs to expand its borders even further. The Senate will want to conquer new territories and become the most powerful empire in the world. To achieve this goal, the Senate will order the construction of new roads and bridges to make it easier for the legions to move around the empire. They will also commission the construction of new ships to help the Navy expand its reach. The Senate will also know that they need to keep the people of Rome happy. They will order the construction of new public buildings, such as temples, markets, and theaters, to improve the quality of life for the people of Rome. The Senate will also know that they need to keep the military strong. They will order the recruitment of new soldiers and the training of new legions. They will also increase the pay for soldiers and promise them land and property if they serve for a certain number of years. As the years go by, the Roman Empire will continue to grow and expand. The legions will conquer new territories, and the people of Rome will enjoy a high quality of life. The Senate will continue to make plans for the future, always striving to make the Roman Empire even stronger and more powerful. In the end, the decisions of the Senate will be final. The future of the Roman Empire will look bright, and the Senate will know that they are doing everything in their power to ensure that it remains the most powerful empire in the world. The legions will continue to march, and the Spanish generals will continue to lead them to victory. The Roman Empire will be here to stay, and it will continue to prosper for many years to come. Please like and subscribe. Don't miss out on any more content by subscribing to our channel.
Weiter geht es nicht. Wir sitzen fest. Imperator? Los, vor! Befehle? Weiter! General! Vorwärts! Wir sitzen fest!
Sind bereit! Ei, ei, Captain! Weiter geht es erstmal nicht. Ja, Kapitän. Ei, Captain! Ei, Captain! Sind bereit! Setzt die Segel!
Vorwärts! Vorbereiten auf Hinterhalt! Marschieren! Wir können nicht weiter!
Befehle? Stoßt vor!
General!
Befehle? Vorwärts! Weiter geht es nicht! Befehle? Weiter! Weiter geht es nicht!
Befehle?
Flotte bereit! Ei, Captain! Setzt die Segel! Wir können jetzt nicht weiter! Setzt die Segel! Sind bereit! Ei, Captain! Setzt die Segel! Setzt die Segel!
General! Imperator, greif den Feind an! Sieg! Bereit machen für den Kampf! Dort steht die Armee des seleukidischen Königs.
Tribune! Milite! Oro! Milite! Milite! Rugedite! Intendeite! Milite! Milite! Oro! Muerte!
Imperator! Greif den Feind an! Wir sitzen fest!
Attentäter erwartet Befehle. Begebe mich in Position. Er wird eliminiert.
Flotte bereit!
Befehle?
Flotte bereit! Ei, ei, Captain! Wir können jetzt nicht weiter!
Imperator? Weiter!
Attentäter bereit. Unterwegs.
Unsere Flotte wird angegriffen! Sieg!
Befehle? Ja. Stoßt vor! Ja. Weiter! General!
Herr! Herr! Verlasse die Armee!
General! Vorwärts! Weiter geht es nicht! Imperator, vorwärts! Stoßt vor! Stoßt vor! Wir sitzen fest! Weiter! Ja! Weiter! Ja! Bereit machen für den Kampf! Sieg! Imperator! Stoßt vor!
Attentäter bereit. Er wird eliminiert.
Sind bereit! Sind bereit! Ei, ei, Captain! Ja, Kapitän! Wir können jetzt nicht weiter! Sind bereit! Setzt die Segel! Weiter geht es erstmal nicht! Sind bereit! Setzt die Segel! Flotte bereit!
General!
Sind bereit!
Befehle? Imperator?
Sind bereit! Setzt die Segel!
Befehle? Schließt uns der Flotte an!
Ei, ei, Captain! Wir können jetzt nicht weiter! Setzt die Segel!